By the end of June 1944, the Allied breakout from the Normandy beachhead had slowed to a crawl. The invasion planners had not fully anticipated what the hedgerows would do. The Bocage country of Normandy, the dense, ancient field boundaries of Normandy, was nothing like the open ground for which American armor doctrine had been written. Each hedgerow was a mound of earth 3 to 5 feet high, interlaced with roots centuries old, topped with dense brush and trees. They were, in effect, natural fortifications. A Sherman tank that tried to climb over a hedgerow would raise its nose into the air, exposing its thin belly armor to any German gun in the field beyond. If the driver tried to push through the base, the mound resisted. Tire tank companies found themselves channeled into lanes that were death traps. German anti-tank guns pre-positioned at every funnel point, waiting. The American infantry that crossed the beaches in June paid for every field in blood. Progress in the first weeks was measured in hundreds of yards. By the last week of June, some units had advanced less than a mile from their D-Day objectives. The breakout that the invasion planners had projected in weeks had become a grinding, field-by-field war of attrition, and every day it continued, the Germans fortified the next line deeper. General Bradley's headquarters was looking for solutions. The problem was reported up the command chain. The reports came back down. No adequate solution had been identified. The solution was already sitting in a tank maintenance depot, welding scrap. Sergeant Curtis G. Culin Jr. was a tankman in the 102nd Cavalry Reconnaissance Squadron. He had been watching the same problem that every other tanker in Normandy had been watching: the nose lift, the exposed belly, the deadly channeling. He had also been looking at the beach obstacles left behind after D-Day. The German engineers had driven steel I-beams into the sand to rip the hulls of landing craft. After the beach was secured, thousands of these obstacles remained, scrap metal in the possession of the U.S. Army going nowhere. Culin's idea was direct: weld the German steel onto the front of a Sherman tank in a row of 6 prongs, angled downward and forward. Instead of climbing over a hedgerow, the tank would drive into it at low speed. The prongs would bite into the earth below the root mass. The tank's engine would push through the root structure and into the field beyond, keeping the hull level, keeping the belly armor down, and arriving in the next field with the gun facing forward and the crew alive. He built a prototype. He ran it into a hedgerow. It worked. General Omar Bradley was briefed and witnessed a demonstration. What he saw was a Sherman tank driving into a hedgerow and emerging from the other side in a matter of seconds. Hull down, gun forward, mobile and lethal. Bradley's reaction was immediate. He ordered the modifications applied to as many tanks as possible before the scheduled Operation Cobra breakout. In 3 weeks, before the July 25 launch date of Cobra, approximately 500 Sherman tanks were fitted with the Culin hedgerow cutter built from the German beach obstacle steel. The fabrication was done in the field by tank crews and maintenance teams working around the clock. The device had no formal designation yet. The troops called it the Rhino. On July 25, 1944, Operation Cobra opened with a carpet bombing strike that represented the heaviest concentration of air power yet applied in support of ground forces. When the bombers cleared and the armor moved, the Rhinos went first into the hedgerows. The Bocage that had stopped the Allied advance for 7 weeks could not stop them now. In the first day of Cobra, American armor advanced further than it had in the preceding 4 weeks combined. In the subsequent days, the breakout became a rout. General Patton's Third Army poured through the gap opened at Avranches and began the encirclement that would eventually trap the German 7th Army at the Falaise pocket. The momentum of the war in Western Europe turned in those days. The German High Command had believed the Bocage would hold the Allies through summer. The Allies punched through it in 48 hours. The steel that held them was German, cut from the beaches where the German engineers had put it to stop the invasion from arriving. Sergeant Culin turned it around. Curtis Culin received the Legion of Merit for the hedgerow cutter. General Bradley later cited it as one of the most significant tactical innovations of the Normandy campaign. The official Army history credited it as a key enabling factor in the success of Operation Cobra. What the history books do not always capture, because it is not the kind of thing that translates easily into official reports, is the simplicity of the solution. Not a new weapon system, not a months-long engineering program, not a redesigned tank. Steel that was already on the ground, a welding torch, and a sergeant who looked at a problem from the angle of someone who had to solve it with what he had. The German engine placed those obstacles to stop the invasion. The invasion used them to break out of the beachhead. That is, In miniature, a version of the war.